Xander, how you been?
Jeremy, man, it's been amazing. I mean, great camp. Now ready to fly out and just excited for August 13th.
Yeah, it's been a little minute since we've talked. It's been probably I'd say about a good 6 months or so.
Yeah.
How would you what have been the biggest changes in your life in that time in say the last 6 months?
Well, obviously after my last fight, I went to Australia for camp with George Campos is in the team. Over there I got sick, couldn't fight June 11th. Um, and now we're here. Now, you know, ready to put on a show, fighting for my first NABO WBO regional belt, and I'm just excited.
Was that your first time in Australia?
That was my first time in Australia. That was my first time in international in an international land. I've never flew international before, so that was my first time. Long flight, but it was pretty good because we had like a little bed because they had us flying in a fancy plane and stuff. So it was pretty nice. It was pretty cool.
What was that experience like? I know obviously other than getting sick, but that experience of being in a new country, what did you think of Australia and what was it like working with George some more?
It was amazing. I mean, overall, I love the country. It was the people there was amazing. Training camp was great. I was looking really good. I was looking sharp. Um, Driving in the other side, I saw kangaroos. I mean, it was an amazing experience. The only thing I didn't like is that was obviously I was away from my family, but overall, I liked everything else.
So I know you go in there and you've worked. We've talked about this the type of sparring that you had with some of the greatest people. You've worked with George in the past before. Do you kind of see it like now that as you continuously get older, get a little bit wiser? Like, all right, George, I'm going to give you something a little bit more than you were used to. Maybe than 2 years ago. Do you see a difference when you
Oh,
perform in there?
well, I couldn't spar George because again, I was bigger than him. I was way bigger than him. But
Mhm.
I feel like you always try to push it every sparring session. It doesn't matter who you got in front of you. You always gotta show them that you're special, that you have something that they don't. And of course, you always be respectful because you always want to learn something from these great fighters. But you always want to push yourself because that's the only way they're gonna push themselves. That's the only way they're gonna make you better.
I know that it was a disappointment to you that you got sick. When you've like felt it come on, like how serious was I'm obviously whenever you're a boxer, any illness is going to be serious because you don't want to go in there putting your life on the line when you're sick. But what exactly were you feeling as far as the
Man,
physical implications?
I remember the first day. That was my last sparring session. And 2 days after, I was gonna fly back to New York because we have fight weekend stuff going. And that day, that last sparring, I had some allergies. So I'm like, Coach, I have a headache. My throat is feeling weird. And he's like, all right, let's just train. Let's just relax today. You don't need the sparring. You already did over 100 rounds. So let's just train. So we train and stuff. And then I got to the hotel. I went to sleep. And when I woke up that same day, I just couldn't move. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't do anything. So, I call my dad. Obviously, he was sleeping at the time because it's 14 hours differences. And I just told him, Dad, I can't do anything. I can't move. And from there, it just got worse. Fever, body aches. I mean, my throat. I couldn't speak. I got to a point that I couldn't talk. I couldn't talk. Couldn't swallow. I couldn't do anything. So it was hard to breathe. So, my dad and the team make the decision. They're like, hey, we're not fighting. We're gonna cancel the fight. I was mad because I wanted to fight. I'm a fighter. I didn't want. I spent 8 weeks outside in another country, away from my family, to not fight. I didn't want to do that, but I understood that it was the right decision, and it's what it needed to happen.
Something that I really liked was that a lot of times when something like this happens to a fighter, they may just, put out a message on like Twitter or, like a little snapshot on Instagram saying, sorry, I'm sick, not going to be able to fight, loving kisses. You put out a video. Was that something like in your heart? You're like, listen, I want to speak directly to my fans. Is that kind of what you were thinking when you made the video?
Yeah, yes and no. Yes, because I wanted my fans to understand what I was going through. That I wasn't that I didn't want to not fight. That I didn't want to let them down. But at the same time, no, because I didn't want them to see me emotional. I didn't want them to know everything that I was going through, because again, yeah, they're my fans and I love them and all, but I wanted to keep it a little bit more just the message, just keep it professional. But the video that we got the video out, and I feel like the fans understood a lot more that it was really really serious.
Well, and I get that, that barrier of, private me and everything, but I think when you kind of spoke, people could hear your passion, for
100%.
the fight game. You could hear it in your voice and you could see it in your face, the disappointment that you had in that moment. And
Yeah.
to me watching it, and again knowing you a little bit, I knew how much I could see how much it was tearing you up, and I think a lot of people respected you for that moment of putting yourself out there, and they could see it. They could see what was going on with you. So
Eh,
I thought that kind of showed your heart, man.
Thank you, Jeremy. And it was funny because in the video they asked me like, "Do you want to do the video?" And I'm like, "Let's do it." And I wasn't crying. I'm like, "I'm not crying." Then when I said the first word, like the first tear came out. I'm like, "Hey, they're already here. The camera's already on. Let's just get it over with." But
I hear
again,
you.
it was just I just felt like you know I didn't want to let the fans down. I didn't want to let my family, my team down. And I felt in that moment that I did. Then I realized that it's just part of life, and there's some things that we can't control.
Well, and especially in the society we live in now, I mean, people get sick all the time and it can keep them out for
Yeah.
quite a bit of time. So I think there's quite a bit of understanding around that. When you have something like that happen, I mean, really it was kind of like, as far as your professional career, maybe one of the first obstacles that you've had. Did you kind of look at it also as like a learning experience, that this is just one of those things that's outside of my control?
100%. I feel like that's the only thing that my team kept telling me. Because again, I was sad. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I'm like, I don't want to speak to you guys. You guys cancel my fight. Um, but they just kept telling me, hey, it's outside of our hands. We can't do anything about it. There's nothing that you can do. There's nothing that we can do to help you. Be ready for the fight, because I spent 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks of camp, not training. So he was like, there's no reason for you to go in there. Yeah, you probably win, but then you will feel bad, or not win, and then you will have to be sorry for losing, where you just could take the time off. So I had to understand it. I had to understand it, and I came to a realization that, hey, it's part of it, and it's a learning experience, like you said.
Um, you've got a different opponent than you had originally planned in front of you. Um, with Elias Espada. As far as going into this fight, what's kind of your goal with this fight? What are you looking for yourself within this fight?
Man, listen to the corner. Look good, look sharp. You know, uh, we've put 8 weeks of training camp. You know, the coaches, my dad, my family, my team is liking what they're seeing in sparring and in the training camp. And I just want to go out there. I mean, we're fighting a veteran that's never been stopped. Just want to go out there and put on a show the world that I'm in a whole different level, and that I'm coming for everybody in my division.
Well, Xander, like I said, we're used to seeing you succeed in the boxing ring, and I wouldn't be surprised if you get another success under your belt. That's kind of what you do.
Thank you.
I'm glad that you're feeling better, and I look forward to seeing you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thanks again. Thanks to everybody for always showing me love, always showing the support. It means a lot. And August 13th, don't miss it. ESPN, baby.
I love it. Thank you, Xander. Always appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeremy.